Hello. Have you ever looked at your bank account or a recent purchase and asked yourself, what was I actually thinking? We often like to believe that we manage money with logic, math, and cold calculations. But the truth is, money is rarely about spreadsheets. It's about ego, it's about fear, it's about envy, and it's about the unique story you've been telling yourself since you were a child. Today, we aren't looking at market charts or stock tips. We are looking into the mirror. We are exploring the psychology of money, the invisible forces that drive every cent you spend, save, or lose. One of the most profound realizations we can have is that no one is crazy. Every person you meet has a completely different view of how money works. Why? Because we all grew up in different generations with different parents in different economies. If you grew up when inflation was sky high, you'll view risk very differently than someone who grew up during a period of massive stock market growth. Your personal experience with money makes up maybe 0.000000001% of what's happened in the world, but it makes up about 80% of how you think the world works. We aren't making wrong decisions. We are making decisions that make sense to us in the moment based on the tools we have. Understanding this is the first step toward financial peace. If you feel that exploring these hidden triggers is helping you understand your own habits better, think about leaving a like. It's a small gesture that helps this content find its way to others who might be struggling to make sense of their own financial journey. Let's talk about the seduction of pessimism. For some reason, we tend to listen more closely to the person predicting a market crash than the one predicting growth. Pessimism sounds smarter. It sounds like it's protecting us. Optimism often sounds like a sales pitch. But in the psychology of money, the most successful people are those who can balance a short-term paranoia with a long-term optimism. It's about surviving the short-term chaos so that you can stay in the game long enough to benefit from the growth. This leads us to the most powerful force in finance, compounding. But compounding isn't just a math trick, it's a test of character. It requires you to be okay with being bored. Most people fail at money not because they aren't smart, but because they can't stop moving things around. They want action. However, the real wealth is built by the person who can leave their money alone for decades. It's the silent work of time. At this point, I'm curious about your own history. What is the one money lesson you learned from your parents that you still follow today, or perhaps one that you've had to work hard to unlearn? Tell us your story in the comments. Reading these different perspectives helps everyone realize they aren't alone in their financial struggles. Now, we must address one of the hardest financial skills to master, getting the goalposts to stop moving. This is the concept of enough. Our modern world is designed to make us feel like we are constantly falling behind. You get a raise and suddenly your needs increase. You buy a house and suddenly you need a bigger one. If your expectations always rise faster than your income, you will never feel wealthy, no matter how much you earn. Happiness, in a financial sense, is simply results minus expectations. If you don't define what enough looks like for you, you'll keep chasing a ghost until you burn out. And while we are talking about wealth, we have to distinguish it from richness. Being rich is what you see, the cars, the watches, the big houses. Wealth, however, is what you don't see. It's the money not spent. It's the assets not yet converted into things. True wealth is the flexibility, the options, and the freedom to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest dividend money pays. If you're enjoying this dive into the human side of finance, consider following or subscribing. It's a simple way to stay connected as we explore more topics that challenge how we think and live. Let's move to the concept of luck and risk. They are siblings. Every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. When we see someone successful, we call it skill. When we see someone fail, we call it poor choices. But often luck and risk are playing a much larger role than we want to admit. Acknowledging this doesn't diminish hard work. It just makes us more humble and more prepared. It reminds us that since we can't control luck, we must focus on managing risk, leaving a room for error in everything we do. The room for error is often called a margin of safety. It's the gap between what you think will happen and what could happen. In your finances, this looks like an emergency fund or a diversified portfolio. It's the only way to survive a world that is fundamentally unpredictable. You don't need a reason to save. You don't need to be saving for a car or a house. You can just save for the sake of saving, because that hidden cash is actually an insurance policy against life's inevitable surprises. Finally, we have to talk about the man in the car paradox. When you see someone driving a Ferrari, you rarely think, wow, that guy's cool. Instead, you imagine yourself in the car and think, if I had that car, people would think I am cool. The paradox is that no one is looking at the driver. They are only using the object as a benchmark for their own desires. We spend money. We don't have to buy things. We don't need to impress people we don't even like. Breaking this cycle is perhaps the ultimate psychological victory. Money is a tool, but it's a tool that often ends up using us if we aren't careful. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about having the most discipline and the best grasp of your own emotions. If you feel like you understand a little bit more about why you make certain financial choices after watching this, then this video has done its job. If it brought you some value or a new perspective, please think about sharing it with a friend or leaving a like and subscribing. It helps this channel grow and allows us to keep exploring these deep human topics together. Thank you for your time today. And remember, the best thing money can buy is the ability to control your time. Until next time,